guys, my name is Michael and welcome to a new GTK tutorial. Today we are going to move on with our GActionGroup, and today we are going to learn new functions which we can apply to our GTK applications. At this point, what do we have? We have learned the GActionGroup has action, the GActionGroup get action, enable it if we have an action, if it is enabled, and if it has a state. And basically the program were looking like this. GActionSelect exists, the action select exists, the select is enabled, and select state it's open or is open. Now let us move on. Before we do that, I'm going to remove these calls right here because it will be much more bigger our startup function, and this is not the case right now. Okay, so now the next function which I'm going to introduce you today, it is the function called GActionGroup get action state hint. It says request a hint about the valid ranges of values for the state of the name action which within action group. So if null is returned, it either means that the action is now stateful or that there is no hint about the valid range of the values for the state of the action. So in other words, how exactly this one works, it is a little bit complicated to explain it, but I'm going to do something else. I'm going to introduce a function which I was thinking before to introduce it. Well, I have some problem with internet connection. Anyway, GSimpleAction, it is what I'm going to introduce you. So where is it? Let's see, GSimpleAction right here. It takes a little bit and I hate this. Anyway, on the GSimpleAction I was introduce you the last function which is right here. It is called GSimpleAction set state hint. Basically it's a function which sets the state hint for the action. In other words, with this function basically you can have information if that action which is involved, it has a state, and of course those states are with hint or not. So basically if we call this function, which means we need the action itself and the state. So in other words, I'm going to do something different now. GActionAction, now action should be pointed to GAction map lookup action. So here's the GAction map, which is our application in this case, and the action name, let's say select. Now with this function, with this action basically we can work. So I'm going to say now GSimpleAction set state hint, and here GSimpleAction, it will be the action and of course the state hint. Now let us create a state hint. G variant state hint, and now the state hint which we are going to create it, state hint G variant new, and here we need those three states. So basically it is three strings, and now let's see, we need hints. So the first one, it will be the new, the next one will be the open, and the next one it is close. Now let me compile it and run and see if everything works fine. Yes, everything works fine. Now at this point, what do we have here? Basically, we are setting some hints for this action, which means we are connecting this state hint with the action, and this information, it is stored inside it, which means with this information we can basically know better than just checking for the states. We can check also if those states, they are indeed there, based on their hints. It's a little bit complicated to understand now, but you'll see in a second. Anyway, now the thing which we need to check if the action has a state hint. So basically I'm going to say check action state hint, I'm going to call it. And here basically what do we need? We need the application, which is very important, application, and the action name, which is the select in this case. And now let us create this function right here, void state create hint, and I'm going to copy this part. Now let me, so what do we have to do now here? Basically we need to call this function GActionGroup GetActionState hint, which returns a G variant. So G variant value, and now the value, it will be pointed to G action state hint group get action state hint. And what do we need? We need the action group and the action name. So G action group, which is the application, and of course the action name, which is provided through the function call. Now because we have the value, we can basically check if the value is indeed there. So I'm going to say if value you know what, I'm going to say if value is true and is not null, I mean, and G variant is container, because I want to be sure that the value, it is also a container. Now we can say G variant, it is complicated about this part here, but I'm not going to talk too much about what I'm doing here, but I'm going to explain a little bit. So const G char hint, and now let's see, I need to initiate iter, so G variant iter init, G variant iter init, I need it, and of course here I need the iter and the value which we got, because basically we need to iterate somehow to these values which are saved here if they are there. So for that we need the G variant iter init. And now let's say G print state found percent u, and of course here G variant iter and children, and here we need a iter. Okay, now because we have it, we need to somehow to traverse all this information. So I'm going to say guint I is equal to 1, and now we need a while loop to iterate. So while G variant iter next, no, not new, sorry, next, yes, which is the iter, and of course we need a value which we have to store it in the hint, and here we can say gprint, because now we have those values, gprint percent %lu, or not u, sorry, because I said gu int, and %s I, and the hint, of course. Now g variant unref, we need to unref the value because we are done with it. And you know what, I'm going to say something different. I'm going to say g boolean here instead of void. And here I'm going to return true because everything looks good. And here, if we are coming up for this if statement, I'm going to say gprint let's say the action %s has no state. And of course here is the action name. And the next thing, return false. Now let me format it a little bit. Now let's see what do we have here. Basically we have a function, we are creating a function called check action state hint, and where we are passing the application and the action name. Inside this function we are calling the GActionGroup getActionStateHint because we need to see if there are some hints for our action added. So this one, they are stored in a gvariant value, and then we are checking in an if statement if the value is not null, which means it doesn't the GActionGroup getActionStateHint didn't return null. And of course we are checking if it is a container because we are interested into a container which holds some information. You don't really need to use this one, but me, I'm using it because I want to be 100% sure that it is also a container, not just a value. And then inside here I declare a gvariant variable and the const gchar hint. We need those two because basically we need to put the value and how many and we need to find how many values basically are stored, or how many hints they are stored in this value, and we are printing them how many they are. So gvariant iter and children, basically we can print how many hints do we have, and then with the help of the while loop here, right here, with the iter next from the gvariant, we are basically iterate inside the iter, and with the iter, and we store in the hint basically the information we get. Once that we have it, when we are done with it, basically the next thing, we are unref the value, we return true, and if there is no value, or there is a value but is not a container, or it is a container but it is not a value, whatever, then we get here the action has no state and we are returning false. So let me see if everything looks good. Okay, here I have a problem. So states found, oh yes, because I need the address of the item. It's very important. It's very important. See, states found are 3: new, open and close. So basically, as you can see, everything works fine, and those 3 which we have them are those 3 which we were creating here before. Let me compile it and run it again. New, open and close. So we have 3, we have new, we have open, we have close. Okay, there I forgot to update the I, which was all the time 1. Yes, states found 3, 1, 2 and 3, new, open and close. So this is the way how you will do it if you want to be 100% sure that those hints are there. So basically, if you want to apply some information, base it on those hints, and you need to call the GActionGroup getActionStateHint to check those values. Or maybe let me go a little bit to the GAction, because there is also another function provide those GAction get state hint. It depends on what you have available. Do you have the action or do you have the group? You see, so if you now, for example, if you want instead to call this one, but you want to call value to point it to GAction get state hint, then basically what do you need? You need the action. So you need to do the same thing again, GAction action, and then you point it to GAction map lookup action, and here GAction map called, and we are passing the application. And the next one, it is the action name, which is in this case the action name. And now, because what we have here, let's see, we declared a gvariant value, and then we point the value to the GAction get state hint. The GAction get state hint needs a GAction. So what we did here, we did the same thing. We got the action, and because we have it, we can pass it. And with the help of the GAction get state hint, basically we do the same thing what the GAction group get action state hint does. This is the same story. It is only different, you see, from needing. If you need to call this function, or you need to call this function, it is based off what information do you have. If you had application, then you call this function. If you have a simple action like here, for example, then you pass the action, and of course you need a cast for simple action to GAction, but it's another story. So it is a matter of choices or needs based of what kind of function are you going to create for your application. So at this point, what do we have? Let's say we have the simple action set state hint. Let me pass it here, and then we had the GAction group action state hint. Let me pass it also, and of course what we learn, another function, GAction get state hint. So if you probably ask yourself, why did I not provide information about these functions? I mean the GAction get state hint and GAction set state hint. I gotta admit, to admit, even myself, I wasn't sure about how it's working, so I got help from Emanuele Mbessi. Thank you for that, from the GTK team, GNOME team, and he explained me how it's working. So this is the reason why I did this video, where I can present you all of that together. That being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.